So today we're going to be talking to Daniel Monahan from the Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter in New York. He's the maintenance director there, and oddly enough, he makes it work using just paper for his entire team. We're going to find out how that goes. Hey Daniel, how are you doing?
Fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. So we talked, before, and one of the things that we talked about was a bit about your background. So maybe you could let me know repeat what you told me before about what your background is and where you came from and how you ended up where you are here today.
A few years back, I was in Pennsylvania in 2017, and I was interviewing. I was in Pennsylvania, desperate for a job. I took a responded to a maintenance position at a nursing home, and about 10 minutes into the interview, they said, "Stop the interview. You're not a maintenance person. You're more of a supervisor." I'm like, "I guess," and they're like, "We know. We have a director of facilities here for the nursing home. Would you want to interview for it?" And I said, "I have absolutely no experience working in nursing homes." And they go, "Yes, we want a building person. Everybody who we hire with experience in nursing homes fails. We want somebody who, knows buildings, not nursing homes." I'm like, "Okay." And I excelled in that position. So yeah, I kind of fell into it, but it was something that is enjoyable to me. I
Yeah,
enjoy the challenge of it.
yeah, I can imagine like you've come into all these different different fields to get to this position, but it's a bit by, like you said, circumstance. But I mean, you probably showed some strengths related to facility management. As you mentioned, it's in many cases black and white, and so you like that aspect. And I see that we're going to get into this a little bit, but you're paper heavy where are currently working, and it's one of the elements that some people have that challenge where they have to work through their day-to-day using paper, other use software or technology of any kind. And so how's that journey been for you through
I
your different
I
jobs?
I use both. Um, I carry a tablet in my pocket at all times. I have my smartphone. I have a hybrid of a regular calendar, which is like a year and a half ahead of time. My preventive maintenance is on my paper calendar. It is also in my computer. It's in a lot of areas because I've lost how many computers? Okay, even though there's a wide area network and everything is saved. I worked with maintenance care, and I loved that. It was a very easy and convenient program.
How do you overcome the obstacles of, let's say, dealing with team members and communicating to them when you're using, like, let's say, a paper-based method? What's the process for you for getting your team to do certain things that, like on a regular basis, or even just things that come up on a daily basis, ad hoc, level?
Well, having a regular preventive maintenance schedule. I send out, luckily, I send out preempted emails a year ahead of time. Emails reminding people we need to do this now. It's time to do this. It's time to do the annual inspection. It's time to do whatever the boilers. And I that for a year ahead of time, those emails have already been sent out. They're just pending. When a certain date comes up, the email is sent automatically. I do those emails with my calendar. Working with the staff, one thing I learned for the military and working a long time, you have porters, and they are great porters. They clean in a very high stress environment, and they do a very good job. And they have absolutely no computer skills, and they have absolutely no smartphone skills. Um, and they can use the phone. That's about it. That's not to. I don't want to say make anything less professional about them. It's just that in their world, they don't really need technology. So I still have to find them, talk to them personally, either call them or leave them messages or give them a list. This is what's happening. And like I said, with a porter, I don't like a routine list because all of a sudden, if there's one thing that's not on that routine list, it doesn't get done. It's a common sense approach. Treat all my staff and train them. If you're a porter, if it's not dirty, don't waste your time. Go after what's dirty and clean it. Make sure we're supplied, make sure we're cleaned. If that window is clean, don't waste your time cleaning it again. Move on to where something is dirty. It's amazing how many people I've seen in different agencies or when I start a new job clean a clean window. Uh, why there's a bathroom that's trashed. And why is that? Because they said I'm following a list. So I think common sense instead of a list outweighs.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, that's kind of funny to hear. And at the same time, what's interesting is we've seen that time and time again. I mean, in the 20 years that we've been doing this, that where you have really great maintenance people who don't understand technology well. So it's hard, you don't want that person to leave or that person to be intimidated and not do their job just as effectively because of this one element of their job, right? And the rest they're experts at. So
Well,
you have to have that balance.
even our time roll, our timesheets. There's no timesheets anymore. It's done. We use a thing called Paycom. My porters can't handle that. But everybody has to use it. So, I have to put the time in for them. But that's me documenting their time, but they document their time on paper. I put it in at the end of the week, but people say, but you have to do that. I said, do you know how much time it saves me having a porter who knows how to do his job?
Yeah.
And what I mean
So
by that is like, do you know how much time it's taken away from me when I have a porter who doesn't clean properly and I'm dealing with complaints? So having a porter who can do a fantastic job and I lose 5 minutes a week because I have to do their electronic stuff for them, it's worth it. It's worth
ha-
the exchange.
have you had any challenges finding people, especially in the last few years? Like, and like, what kind of training did they typically need when they come to you? Like, what do you like to see?
Well, if a maintenance person has to have maintenance training, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a training program. That's what a lot of people say. Can you train this person for this position? I'm like, no. Do you want to hire a case manager and train them for? No, I need to hire a case manager with experience. Well, I need to hire a maintenance person or a porter for experience. Everybody thinks a porter position or maintenance experience is something that you can get on the job. I want somebody who already has that, and I just teach them the routine of the agency, whether the politics of it or uh, the clientele that we have. You have to learn. We have people who are mentally ill, chemically addicted. We have people who can be volatile, and if you can't clean that area because somebody's having an episode, so what? Don't clean that area. It's not your job to deal with a mentally ill person. It's not your job to risk yourself. It's your job to leave and report it and go someplace else and clean. You can always come back at the end of the day to clean that. You can always come back in 2 hours when the incident is over. A lot of people have to learn how to be flexible to clean. There's a lot of people who start and go, I clean this floor, these. I said, no, if you're gonna be working here, you gotta be flexible. If there's something going on, you bypass it, you come back 3 hours later. That's what I have to teach. I'm not going to teach people how to use the broom. You should already know that before you get here.
We found like it's been kind of a change in the marketplace for finding people. You're in the New York area. Has it been the same for you, or it's been a constant kind of the same thing as forever as far as finding personnel?
For the agency, the clinical part, we can't get staff. We have one site that has like 4 openings, and we cannot get clinical staff. We can't get case management staff. We have a hard time with every type of staff member except for maintenance and porters. I've had not a difficult time. One thing that the phenomenon that's going on right now is ghosting your interview. You call somebody, have a position open. I do pre-screening. I tell them the salary because I don't want to. In New York, you don't come in without knowing what the salary is. Um, and if they're good with the salary, you describe the job in detail, and you get ghosted. But with the people who come in and make the interview, that's if they make the interview, they're interested. But I don't have positions open for months. I have positions open for weeks because we have guidelines where people have to go through a background check, fingerprinting, um, before they can start working here because of the population we work with. Uh, and that's the most time consuming part is the background check and whatnot. But I haven't had a too horrible time getting since the beginning of COVID,
Well,
getting staffing. Now that
that's
doesn't count for the agency. Can't get clinical people, can't get accountants, can't get anybody else. But we're okay with the maintenance. We've always had a full department.
well, that's great. That's amazing. I wonder why that is. Like people are ghosting you. So what does that mean? Like they book the interview and then they know all the facts and they just don't show up.
Correct.
So they don't give you ever a reason. They just disappear.
They disappear. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So now like you said, you were in senior care and now you're in mental health facility. Do you have any stories in either one of those where, maybe your knowledge or things that have happened on a maintenance level that you had to deal with that are interesting and related to kind of some of the things that we've been talking about? What comes to mind? Anything for you?
We get a lot of vandalism.
Okay.
Okay, like this past weekend at our site in Manhattan, we had a shower stall wall kicked in. The amount of damage is phenomenal. We were still trying to figure out how they were able to do that. Toilet tank cover broken, and somebody in a shower turned on full blast and decided to leave for about 2 hours, and leaving it on full blast heat, damaging the walls. Okay, um, this is normal. This is the name of our population and our job. For example, the building we have in Manhattan, the site we have in Manhattan, if it was a normal residential multiple dwelling residence of 65 units, you'd probably need one part-time maintenance worker and one part-time porter. That's probably all you would need to maintain the building. Easy. And they would probably be also covering other buildings as well. The problem is the population is challenging. And just this one building has to have a full-time maintenance person. I mean, sorry, a full-time maintenance supervisor, a full-time maintenance person, two full-time porters. Um, because of everything, like I just said, the past weekend. Oh, the kitchen was flooded as well. Okay, because this person clogged up the sink on purpose, and we have find jeans in toilets. We find we don't think it's like the prison mentality of doing it on purpose. It's just that it's not knowing that you should not flush jeans down a toilet. That's what it comes down to.
So that must get quite expensive. Like,
Oh yeah,
how do you structure your budgets on a yearly basis? And like I'm assuming you get funding, or maybe there's some
we get funding from the city and the state, and it's a rent generating income of the building. It's subsidized, and the tenants have to pay rent. So we're actually doing our local law 11 right now. That's our facade maintenance work, and that's running less about 350,000. When it's over, and we're paying this through either grants or general income from the building. How do you plan this out? You try to look at the year before and you try to take a guess on what's going to happen. Um, it's like when I work in an older building that's over 100 years old and you use live steam. I had a building that you had steam coming in and you can fail. I'm going to have 3 steam failures, when it goes 15 degrees. If we get a period, it's going to be the 15 degrees. We have not been getting that cold lately. So, but I would expect 3 leaks a year, and one of those is going to cost about $1,500. So that's how you budget it out, because from your history. But when we have a warmer winter, everybody says, "Oh, let's change the budget." I said, "No, because if we get another cold winter, you're going to get those." Believe it or not, we had incredibly mild winters. That saved us on snow removal. That saved us on ice melt. We had really, really mild winters. And you have the accountants going, "Oh, let's change your budget." I'm like, "No, don't touch that budget." Okay, because we've had abnormally warm winters. We're going to get cold winters again, and then we're going to get the snot knocked out of us on costs.
And you're probably going to get other problems because it was a warm winter, and you're going to get other issues. Like it could be anything from mold to other issues that happen just because of the scenario. So you can't, that's hard to predict all these changes that happen.
If it's a newer building, we're getting mold. If it's an older building, we're not getting mold. Older buildings can breathe. They've been around for 100 years. They have been breathing for 100 years. They have not been getting mold for 100 years. Newer buildings, or if you get an older building and you get all winterized and insulated, then you get mold. I just did
Right.
a newer building from 2006, just a mold remediation uh, already. Major, major. And you have to have file it with the Department of Environmental Protection for the city, have, get your certificates that it was cleaned, and then now I'm doing the gut rehab of the unit.
So it blows my mind that you're doing all of this. Like, how many locations is it for you? Like, are you overseeing just the
Right
one, or is
now,
there multiple?
at this point, one, two, three, four, five.
Wow. And
But before, during the height of COVID, it was like 20.
and so what happened after that? Like, it just divested
Well,
those
during when
facilities.
just before COVID, like just before COVID, I was at this job where I'm at right now, and I was offered another job, and I went, and they offered good money. So I turned my resignation for the job I'm currently at, saying I'm going to accept another job, and the job I'm currently at saying, "Well, we'll match you." I said, "You can't match me," and they're like, "Why?" And I told them the amount, and they go, "We can't match you, but we're not going to let you to leave." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, we'll keep you any way you want at the same pay as long as you continue working for us." So I worked both places at the same time. And then my wife passed away about a little over a year ago. And I'm a single parent. And working two jobs at the same time was just too stressful and really killing me. I love the pay, but I just couldn't do it physically and mentally anymore. So I said to this job, I was just I gotta make a decision. I have to choose one job. And they go, "We're gonna offer you this if you stay with us." And I'm like, "Sure." So I stayed here.
Wow. So at this point, you know what you're doing. And even though there's a lot of variety as far as what your expenses could be from a year to year basis, you've got those years of experience to understand what's likely going to happen over time. So that's how you can, it just still blows my mind that you're doing all this on paper. I mean, I know you say you do a combination, but that you're tracking all of these and that you're able to maintain, that effectiveness. And it's just like
Well,
every
okay.
maintenance department used to do, but now you're still maintaining it that way. That's
Well,
pretty effective, I guess.
when I was growing up, everybody had black and white TV. Nobody had an answering machine. I saw the development of answering machines. I saw the development of VCRs, and then it was like, oh, a computer. My friend has a computer. How much it costs? Thousands. I'll never afford a computer. Okay. I evolved with everything. So I was doing everything without computers beforehand. So that's why I do a hybrid. Because I still like coming in and seeing it. Okay, on my
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I
oh,
think you could probably give a course on it.
but let me. This is. I don't know. I'm going to show you something.
Yeah, yeah.
I get a lot of apartment buildings, fire department inspections, housing preservation development, Department of Homeless Services inspections, and the worst ones are the fire department. Okay, they can be a lot of fun after you click with the inspector. That you both realize you're professionals, you both know what you're talking about. All right, you know, I just show them this. This is everything, and it's paper. But you know what helps you get through an inspection with no violations? Having this paper. Not, oh, I'll go look for that on the computer. When the inspector comes in the city, they just want to get there and get out because they have 10 more places to go to. So if I can pull up my letter of approval for the fire alarm system right now, that's great. If I can pull up all my other permits for my Ansel system, for my HVAC, it's right here, right now. They'll go, I don't feel like looking at that. I believe you, I'm leaving.
It's funny you say that because I've seen it time and time again. Like that is the biggest obstacle has been with the fire marshals as far as them still wanting, like you said, to just go through paper. A lot of the stuff requires a signature. So you actually, these are the people that were executed on this particular task that they need to see. So you require that process. And like you said, building that relationship with your fire marshal inspector is the key so that you develop that mutual relationship together. So how often do you get a new person?
For the, I like the old timers. They know exactly what they're doing. The newer inspectors are not as savvy. You get one a year. I like the older. I pretty much know everybody on site, but when somebody new comes in, you try to nurture them through it. But you have to learn also to say no. Okay, I had one come in for the range hood permit. That's the in the kitchen. Your range hood for the stove
Right.
has to have a permit. They inspect the Ansel system, they inspect the range hood, and make sure it's cleaned every 3 months, and you have to have a permit. I had one guy come in, had all the paperwork, and he goes, I need to see your Department of Health license. I said, no, no, you don't. You don't have, this is for the fire department. You don't need a Department of Health license for you to give me a permit. And I held my ground. There was no point for him even to see that. It was not part of the fire code. It's part of the Department of Health. And he finally accepted it, that he wasn't going to get it, and gave us a permit.
It's a good thing you knew what you were doing, you were talking about, so you were able to know when to say no. Some of the younger, like what would you say to a younger director dealing with the fire marshal that's asking for stuff like that? How would they
Well,
know what
in
they're
in New
supposed to
York
do?
in New York City, a FDNY inspector can create his own code on site. So if he insisted on seeing it and was going to give me a violation, I'd have to show it to him.
Hmm.
They always win. The fire inspectors always win. But it's nice to give a little pushback. If he said, I'm going to give you a violation, I would have showed it to him. But I made a point that he didn't need it. So, but yeah, you'll never win. You will never, ever win with a fire inspector.
Here's an odd question. Like if you had the choice, like would you prefer dealing with an older building or a young or like a brand new building?
Older building, absolutely yes. You already have a history of it. You already know what's going on. Less issues of mold because they breathe. Like I said that earlier, a newer building does not breathe. A newer building, you're going to have staff and tenants who get sick building syndrome. An older building, you're not going to get mold. An older building, you're not going to get the issues that you get with a newer building. It's whatever leaks it's had, it's run its course. How do I want to say this? When you have a building that's over 100 years old, you have the old timers who tell you the history of that building, so you already know what's going to be going on. You usually have like a really good old Dunkirk boiler or something like that. It's already 25 years old, and you're going to get another 10 out of it. A newer building, you're going to have some type of high efficiency gas boiler that's going to last 5 to 10 years and be problematic. The HVAC systems are not going to be balanced. Like I said, you're going to just have issues. Older buildings, when you do work, you have to be wary of mold and lead paint. You got to get that encapsulated. But I prefer an older building. They're more fun. Newer
Yeah.
buildings are just, I'm like, I get angry. I'm like, there's a special place in hell for architects who make a conduit that big. It's like, what do they think? Oh, they're going to only need cable. You know what? No, make make a big ass conduit. Okay, I mean, it's like they don't plan there's going to be something 5 years from now. They just the architects just look now, not thinking that this building is going to evolve like the tenants are going to evolve. Okay, put big conduits in there. Okay.
That's crazy.
Make the HVA systems easy to get to. All right.
So now we were going to have our talk last week, but you had something come up, and you told me that I should ask you about what happened.
Okay. Well, um, in a nutshell, we have a site in the Bronx that was built around 2006. Okay. The building next to our building was built the exact same time by the exact same contractor, by the exact same engineer, and the exact same architect. So they built both buildings at the same time. Our building is not subject to local law 11. Local law 11 is the facade inspection. Our building's 4 stories tall. You have to do a facade inspection every 5 years in New York City if your building is 6 stories and above. That building is 8. They're doing their local law 11 work, a lot of issues, and they decided to start doing some probes into their building. And they're finding out that the contractor did not uh, tie in the facade properly. They did not support the parapets properly according to the blueprints. So you have issues with the parapets, issues with the facade. New correction work is going to be millions of dollars. Okay. So the building who did the probes, their director said, we should tell our neighbor because it's the exact same contractors and engineer and architect. So they sent us the probes, and I needed to get up there with an engineer to take a look at our building to find out if we will have these same issues. None of the same issues are showing that they're having because there is some differences, but we still wanted to get it checked out to make sure that we don't have issues. So we don't have any issues with our facade or parapet, but it's a smaller building, less stressors, but we want to make sure that we don't get these issues 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
That's actually quite interesting. You think how many times that happens that you have two buildings exactly kind of the same, like you're mentioning, and that you can one's wearing faster than the other for one reason or another or whatever it is.
A
Now
lot
you
faster.
yeah, and you can use the information you gain from that building to start to look ahead and what you need to look at before something happens. I wonder how often you can use that type of information.
It's interesting, but the engineer that I hired to take a look at their probe results and take a essentially a gander at our building said, you know what? He's working on the exact same project where they didn't tie in the facade properly, they didn't do the parapets properly. That was built at the exact same time around 2000, 2006, and they're doing all the corrective actions on that building. So I luckily got an engineer who has that sort of experience where um, there was no oversight. I am a firm believer if you're doing a project, you don't have your facilities manager be the project manager. They don't have the time. You hire a specific project manager to keep an eye on everything. Uh, I I inherited this building after it was built. I was kind of angry. I said I wanted to be more involved while it was being built, especially since they dropped all the data cables. They missed the file server room and dropped everything into the sewage ejector room. Uh, you heard me. Because they didn't hire a project manager. They wanted to save $20, and they end up spending $1 million. You know what I mean. I see so many non-for-profits thinking, oh, we can do it ourselves, and they can't, or they're paying for it years down the line. Here's an example of the nursing home I worked at. I was hired, and they said, we're doing these renovations to the bistro. They're enlarging it and making a new kitchen. Oh, I said, that's interesting. And they're like, no, 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 you're not going to be involved. You're going to be learning the building, learn the facilities, learn your staff. Don't get involved with this construction project. I'm like, okay. And I said, who's your project manager? Oh, the chief financial officer. I'm like, oh, I kept my mouth shut, but I'm like, well, that's a bad idea. So the first day of construction is like my first week of work, and I meet the contractor. How you doing? We're all gathered together in the bistro, which was shut down because they're going to tear down a wall. And I clap my hands together. I go, this is exciting. Who has the permits? The contractor looks at me and shakes his head. I didn't contract it out to get any permits. The chief financial officer is standing there and goes, that was me. I'll be back. Okay. He didn't get the permits for the job because he's not a project manager. He's a chief financial officer. It's, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times.
You have to know what you're doing, and you have to have the right people doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And sometimes, the person at the top wants to have some more control over things, and but they have to realize that there's people with expertise that'll actually get the job done more effectively than they could. And
No,
they can
it's a way of saying
participate, but
it's
yeah.
what one thing that I always have very easy thing saying is, especially when I'm working, to stop a contractor and say, I don't know what you're saying. You're just went over my head. I don't understand anything. Most people can't do that. They just nod their head and okay, and then the person leaves and they don't know what's going on. I go, I have no idea. Especially some new simplex fire alarm. He starts talking about. It. I'm like, wait a minute, English. I don't know. And all the maintenance guys are nodding their head like they're pretending they're understanding it, and then they go, well, we don't understand either. You're nodding your head, you do. Just tell them you don't understand. No, it doesn't reflect on you.
Well, when you have the confidence of the stuff you do know and you know that it's correct, then when you hear something that you don't understand, it's not a big deal to say, well, you can't just wow me with marketing terms here. I don't talk the same language as you, and you've been selling this product forever. So now give it to me like I don't know anything, which is the way they should be talking to you about it because it's new to you, right? So
Yeah, it's also I was in a meeting and there was a pottery school going under gut rehabilitation, big, and the executive directors start looking at me and he starts talking like I'm like whoa 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 whoa, you're talking to me like I'm a project manager. I'm a facilities manager. You got to hire a project manager. You're not paying me nearly enough to be a facilities manager and project manager. Said you don't ask this stuff from a facilities manager. You ask this stuff from a project manager. He's like, okay, okay, okay. Um, but yeah, you have to also put your foot down and say you can't do everything. And I don't want that liability. I said I'll be the project manager, but that's all I'm going to be for this one project. I can't do all this other stuff and supervise the staff and make sure the toilets are clean and working. I got to focus over here.
absolutely. So we're just reaching the end a little bit, but I wanted to ask you just a couple of questions related to some shortcuts you might have found through your career, or things that have been really useful, or tricks that you find are might be little things. I've had somebody say to me, "Well, I like to keep my boiler room floor painted. That way, I can see when there are leaks right away and things like that." So just any types of tips. I mean, can you think of anything? You deal with so many things on a daily basis.
I think the most time saving thing for me is having a good, clear rapport with your chief financial officer and being able to clearly describe why you need to spend this money. And before you even go to your chief financial officer, get the three proposals and a clear explanation why it needs to be done. And you will compact your time down to so fast because I have so many people saying that was approved already. Well, in your eyes, it was approved already, but I've been playing it together for about a month. Okay. Um, you just found out about it. Okay. Uh, don't go taking stuff prematurely to your supervisors because you just piss them off, and then make them ask questions that they shouldn't have to ask.
Yeah.
If you're a facilities manager, you know what your chief financial officer needs even before you get to them. You don't go say, "Oh, this is broken." I'm like, no, who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much it's going to cost. Because it's either broken or not broken. But little things. Oh, see, everything we have is usually neglect or vandalism. I would say about 90%. Windows don't break themselves from the inside. A coffee cup flying through that window is what broke. Uh, that's why every time I go up to a building, I do a walk around. I look at the windows. Last week I found one broken from the inside, so they're double pane. So you Pay attention to your properties. Get the feel for your properties. Know your properties. I walked into the building one time. I immediately know the water booster pump was going because I could hear and feel that little vibration.
Wow.
Know your properties. Yes, painting the floor, that will give you a big heads up, but also hearing. When I go into a basement, I hear everything. If I hear everything that's a little bit odd, investigate it. That's how I usually find steam leaks. Pay attention to your doors closing. That means your HVACs are not balanced properly. If all of a sudden a door isn't closing properly. Also pay attention to your doors. When a door doesn't open properly, why is that door not closing properly? I had a door not closing properly, and it turned out there was a broken steam line. It was making the wood swell. Nobody could figure that out. I went over there and I said, it's too humid in here. Went below the floor and found a broken steam line. Okay, just common sense, observe your facilities.
Well, I mean, you could teach a course in this. That you know, that's it's a very fun, I think, and interesting job to do on a regular basis because, like you said, you have different puzzles to solve every day. So it's been great talking to you. I appreciate your time. And I think we should eventually do this again, and in a few months or a year, and we can talk again and see how things are going with you. And it's been great to get to learn about what you've been doing. And if you have anything else you want to say, go ahead.
Well, if we talk in a year or so now, we're going to still talk about the same things because, oh, guess what? Somebody kicked in a shower wall again. Okay. Somebody broke a toilet tank again. Um, in my little world, we have already pre-cut plywood to put over outside and door windows for when they get broken. My glass vendors can usually come the same day. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you prepare for the disaster that is your facilities, um, your population.
Yeah, that's smart to do. That's smart to do. You find those shortcuts when you get repetitive things like that. So there's no preventative maintenance other than preparing for it
Well,
that can help in those situations.
preventive maintenance is like a no-brainer. Your boilers, your HVACs. I mean, if you have good contractors, they're reminding you. If my contractor is not reminding me, and I have to remind them, they're not a good contractor. I
Exactly.
mean, they want my business.
Well, thanks, Daniel. It's been great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.